So, less than 100 days to probably what is going to be the biggest change that this industry is going to see. And IMO 2020 is all about sulfur. And this game, as you see, it's made of sulfur concrete. So
Let's get going.
over to you.
May the best team win.
Not bad.
They used to be called compliance options, but they have become choices now. So how did you guys go about in making these choices?
For Teekay, it was a fairly straightforward question because one of our core values is sustainability. When it came to fuel oil choices, we were fully supportive of the industry's move towards burning, lower sulfur and cleaner fuels. So as we looked at the problem, the answer was really back in our core value system, and that's why we've supported the move to burning cleaner fuels, and that's why we've chosen low sulfur fuels and distillates, which we're already burning in different parts of the world
Before
right
that,
now.
yeah. Was it a difficult choice? Did it require a lot of work from your side? How did you go by in making that choice?
Well, at a high level, we started looking at this years ago and put together really a transition team, or what we called the IMO 2020 team. And then pretty much I handed over to Ray, and he molded the team together in terms of who would take part from technical, commercial, the bunker teams, the ship management side.
So yes, the first question of course is availability. So we have to figure out what we lift, where we lift it, and ask ourselves, is product going to be available there for us to take? Then we have to look at our ability to actually take the fuel onto our ship. We have to look at segregations within our ship, because it's clear the compatibility that we've been able to rely upon largely for heavier fuels we're not going to get with the high sulfur.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's
Okay.
really, this has been a multi-year preparation. I mean, we started back in 2016.
Okay, already then.
Looking at our dry dock specs over the next 3 years to those ships that would need those segregations built in, to also adding in fuel additives, which we started in 2016 to try and clean our bunker tanks as we get closer to the deadline dates.
Let me make sure we stay competitive here.
Oh,
Close.
Thank you very much.
Much,
Yeah.
So again, to
that
build on this a little bit further, Ray, when you went through the thought process for on the fuel side, the compliant loops also became part of that. Can you tell us a little more how you went through that and where you landed on?
Yes, for us the switch from 70 to 40 is obvious, as it is for everybody else in the industry. But it can't just be about taking out the alkalinity which used to deal with the sulfur. We need to relook at the additive package, and we need to be very consistent, very sure that the partners we choose to supply lube oil are able to give us a consistent additive package across the world.
Well, and that's exactly what we did, because we could have relied on the 40BM products we produced years ago, but the compliant fuel requires something completely different. But you need to completely counterbalance that in order to have a very balanced, counterbalanced lubricant, basically to support your needs.
How do you feel the rest of the industry has done or is doing relative to what you just shared with us?
I think, at a high level, you've obviously got 3 different camps. You've got the camp that want to stay with the older fuel technologies, the fitting scrubbers and going with 3.5 heavy fuels. You've got the camp that are scared of the lower sulfur fuel mixes. So they're sticking with the distillate product,
Yep.
which we've been doing in the North Sea and in the Caribs for the last 4 or 5 years.
Exactly.
So there's familiarity with that. We took a different stance and said, in order to call at the trade ports that we call at, in 2018 we bunkered in 70 different locations.
Oh wow.
So our concern was more around both supply availability and quality.
And quality, okay.
We do have concerns on all of that. So Ray and the team really looked at how can we get the broadest base of supply, and that meant looking at low sulfur fuel blends. So a lot of work's been put in preparing the team, the ships, for what that product might look like.
So the quality component is important, but let's not forget the consistency part of it, which is key for lubes, because what we want to do, wherever Teekay lifts their lubricants, that we are using the same base stocks and we're basically using the same additives and you're basically getting the same lubricant. So from that perspective, the conditions remain the same.
There's enough unknowns in this equation right off the get-go. So you need to start nailing things down to give you areas of certainty. Lubes is an area where we have absolute control, so it's an area should be giving us absolute certainty, absolute repeatability. Also the presence of the leading oil major in the fuel supply and the presence now of something like an ISO spec tells us that we're getting repeatability as well in the fuel. The other point I think it's important to make is it's so important that everybody realizes that your reliability affects me.
Exactly. That's a great point. And it's interesting that you mentioned this, because when I think about reliability of the service that we provide, for me there's a linear equation, the reliability of the service that you provide to your own customers. So the two things, and it makes me sometimes smile that this industry think that there is suppliers in one camp and end user on the other camp.
We're all in this together.
Exactly.
Absolutely.
Exactly.
Yeah.
I think I'm up.
To use a marine term, we're in this boat together.
Exactly.
Not bad.
I think one of the lessons learned might have been perhaps, a better understanding from the get-go as to how compliance is going to be monitored. And
Okay.
that's an area of uncertainty for us as owners.
Yeah.
How individual port states are going to manage this.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, local interpretations of international rules are always fraught, and they do tend to take a while to bed in before you get really effective, consistent implementation across the board. IMO have given good guidance on this. Yeah. That's fair, and we know that non-compliance is going to be really easy to smoke out, because a relatively competent ISM audit or a good vetting, it's easy to find who is playing fast and loose with the rules on that. Yeah, local interpretations of international rules troubling. The ISO standard does give us a fresh take on is compatibility measurements, compatibility standards, which is hugely important for us. Not just going forward, but also in terms of the ship-specific implementation plans that we're working towards. And it's not just going to be compatibility for the fuels, it's going to have to deal with some degree of compatibility for the lubes also, Frans, because prudent ship management means that you have to have a reserve of 70 TBN, and somehow that needs to be worked through the system.
No, absolutely. And when we formulated Mobilcard 540, this was a pretty long process. We started that in 2015, and how you normally do that, you start with some lab work, followed by some in-house testing work, and then at some stage you decide to put an X amount of formulations on a vessel. And you start with 8 or 9 formulations, and in the end you boil that down to 1. And one of the critical factors is it needs to be 100% compatible with other lubricants from the company. So that was clearly one of the most important factors why we formulated this one.
So in terms of compatibility across different regions of the world, how are you addressing that for sure?
Sulfur compliance was only the ticket to the game. After that, we wanted to make sure that the fuel not only comply but also perform. And performance is a multi-dimensional factor, and compatibility is one of them. So hence the reason why in our EMF.5 range we say we got enhanced compatibility characteristic that enables the two fuels within that range across the world, across the port where we have the range available, to be compatible at least 90-10 or 10-90.
So we feel very comfortable with our preparation, and it will be set to go on January 1st, 2020. Our concern is really, what about the others? What happens in a busy port like Singapore if you have a vessel through fuel compatibility or a crew issue, not handling the product properly, and you have a ship that blacks out.
I totally agree with you. That's a major issue. From our standpoint, what we've done is make sure that to the maximum extent that we can, we made quality fuel available for this industry. On your side, and I think on the side of every ship owner, it's also about crew, and it's about the training that has been provided to them and the training has been developed. So those two things go hand in hand.
Well, on that training topic, Luca, it's actually exactly the same on the loop side. You know, I echo your comments completely. But there is an additional component on the loop side, which is basically our cylinder condition monitoring system, CCM, and Teekay were and are part of the rollout plan. And it's a great device if you combine it with the right people and the right knowledge. So we do a fair bit of training together with the shipping companies to stay ahead of the game. Yeah. And CCM basically allows you to measure alkalinity, BN. It allows you to measure iron, but it also allows you to measure sulfur. And that's where you see that we really look at this from an integrated perspective.
Is there any other challenge you think is going to emerge between now and that date in the sand, 1st of Jan 2020?
I actually think there'll be a fair number of challenges for the whole industry. I think as we move towards more uptake of the lower fuels, that'll have an impact on pricing. So really where that goes, nobody knows. I think also as you look to supply, there's going to be logistics constraints, maybe perhaps not in places like Singapore that are well prepared, but some of the smaller ports around the world. I think we will run into challenges in terms of getting compatible fuels that we really want to burn. There's also the question mark around how port state enforces this, and that could cause logistical slowdowns as ships get detained for whatever reasons, and people start to understand the environment in which this is going to be implemented. So I think there's a fair number of different things. There's probably things I haven't spoke of that are going to creep up that we don't know about, but it is going to be a challenging time for the industry.
Yeah, and I totally agree. I mean, these are the challenges the industry has talked about. I think some of these challenges have been addressed, but I agree with you, there's going to be things that happen between now and the 1st of Jan 2020 and beyond that, because IMO 2020 is not about the 1st of Jan, it's about the implementation.
Absolutely.
To a certain extent, IMO 2020 is the past in terms of preparedness, is the present in terms of implementation. But what are the future challenges that this industry will face?
We see that a ratcheting lower of CO2 is surely going to be required of us. And indeed must be, because one thing we don't want is we don't want to be contributing more of the global CO2. So we must ratchet down our CO2 production, but we also must take greater local care with the exhaust gases that we produce. So I think these are reasonable expectations that the world has of us. The technology is there to do it, so let's get on and do it.
Okay, let me challenge you on the technology, because I don't think the technology is there. If I think about IMO and what is the vision of IMO as part of the greenhouse gas strategy, I don't see any technology in isolation that can take us to that vision. And the way I think about technology, I think about 4 dimensions. It's about the ship and the ship design, it's about the engine, it's about the operations and using smart technology like artificial intelligence.
I think also though, it has to be a combined and integrated industry approach, because individual ship owners or groups of ship owners do not have the R&D funding to look at these advanced technologies and develop them. Similarly on the product side, on the fuel side, it won't be one single source that provides the answer to this. It's going to be input from all aspects of industry. And I don't think it'll be a massive overnight leap. It'll be a steady progression of developments in different areas, be it design, engine, propulsion systems. But we have time.
Yes.
And as long as we continue to work together through industry forums, collectively, working with regulators, I think we'll get there.
Yeah. And regulators,
we have no choice.
No, absolutely, absolutely. But that's the reason why we're investing. So, guys, great game,
Great game.
great chat. Thank you for the perspective that you bring. And together, that's the word that I heard us using most. And together we can address these challenges and the challenges that come in the future. Great game.
Absolutely.
Agreed.
Thank you.
Thanks a lot, Kevin.
Thanks a lot.
Luca.
Thanks.